once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of this series of tubes and wires that we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
Why hasn't there been a Baitor Groot crossover?
I mean, you don't do crossovers anymore.
Why not? I mean, every time we mention something on this here podcast, it happens. Didn't we mention mere months ago, you know, with the coolness of this whole Into the Spider-Verse thing, why don't you get Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield together and do a live-action Spider-Verse movie? You can even throw in Nicholas Hammond. He's still kicking. Get that Japanese Spider-Man guy. I guess they're bringing him back for one of them. And
really? I would love to see the Japanese Spider-Man guy.
Yeah. What happens? It's the rumors are that they're going to put these three together in another Spider-Verse movie. I'm like, you know what? We got to stop giving away these $1 million ideas. I'm telling you.
Or we just get them to make sure that they first let everyone know that we're a national treasure, and second, Disney, you've got a lot of money.
You got
Go
money.
ahead. Go ahead.
Got money. It just opened up as we record. I could be watching Disney Plus right now, but no. Yep.
Update our Wikipedia page.
It could happen,
but they haven't.
Nope. We got nothing.
Now,
what are we gonna do
today?
Yeah. Well, as soon as we got home, my wife cranked it up, and she started watching Simpsons. Downloaded into our Roku real easy. Said there were a couple blips. I'll talk a little bit about it when we get to our beloved freaking and geeking. But so far I'm set for Hip Watch 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Well, that's good. Now, if I had taken a shot for every person on my Facebook page who mentioned The Mandalorian being available today, there would no longer be a podcast because I'd be dead.
Yep. And I'm like, whatever. I'll get to it when I get to it. I'm not even going to see the last Star Wars until like a month after it comes out.
Someone asked me if I was going to watch it as soon as I got home, and I said, well, first I have to podcast, and second, I want to wait till it's all done because I'm no good at, it's a streaming show. I'll watch this episode this week and the next episode next week, and there's just too much stuff. So it's when it's done, when the first season is done, I will watch it.
And then Cory will get around to it.
By the way, subscribers can listen to us on a new platform now, Joe.
What?
Yeah, a few weeks ago we got onto the Google podcast. Now we are on iHeartRadio.
Oh, cool.
So Clear Channel is making us available to all the people who heart their radio.
Outstanding. Strode, have yourself another gumdrop. We don't get paid. We pay ourselves in food product.
We also got a letter.
We did?
Yes. From Travis, who has emailed us before. He has a note on episode number 28. Joe, do you remember back to episode number 28? We were young and fresh-faced.
I had hair. It was before the Great Purge.
It was before episode 52.
28. Where the hell was I on episode? I was probably somewhere. Probably during the Alaska incident.
But he said, I listened to this episode yesterday. Well, if you're catching up, you're only 9 years behind.
You'll catch up to us eventually.
So intrigued by your Solson story, I jotted down Iron Maiden's quickly to quickly look it up when I finished driving. Looking quickly on the internets, I found no such book. That's right. It was never published. It was going to be digest-sized.
Ooh.
So he told me to write 4 panels a page. What it was, Solson was this company owned by Sol Brodsky's son, Sol son, and run by Rich Buckler. And they had me write. I sent in a sample script, and they said, wow, we really want you to write. So they gave me the idea. when I was able to turn stuff around fast, they gave me Iron Maidens, which was about a bunch of 4 female bodybuilders who were also detectives. And they liked it so much they were going to have me take over a book called Codename Ninja, which was about a ninja who worked for the CIA against the evil CIA. There were 2 CIAs the government was running, and one of them was evil. And after I'd sent in my information for those, they'd said, "Oh, well, with issue 8, you'll be taking over Reagan's Raiders."
Lucky guy.
But the company died. Or anything was printed. But go back to what he said here. Flash forward to today when I am reading Codename Ninja #1 that I brought at Roy's Comics in Bemidji the other day. Inside the front cover, I see, and he's got the ad there for Iron Maidens.
Oh, scan that baby. I'd like to see it.
He did scan it.
Yeah, but I didn't see it. Where is it? Oh, he emailed it.
I will send it to you.
Put it on the Facebooks. Put it on the or we got that Crazy Comics and Stories Facebook page. Put it up there. We'd love to see it.
Put it up there too.
Cool.
What does all this mean? That I need to start reading better comics?
Probably.
I hope to hear more black and white boom stories as I browse the podcast. Well, if you're all the way back at episode 28, we have talked a lot about the black and white boom, and I'm sure we will do so again. That was before you had a shop, but you were selling comics at conventions, right, Joe?
Who is this that sent the note?
This is Travis.
Oh, he sent me a note via the eBay saying the same thing because he said he was looking to see if I had any small press bizarre parody stuff, and he sent me a link to something called Killed Barney from I'm not sure who published this thing, Parody Press in '94. So I will be looking for stuff like that as well, because I'm pretty sure most of what I had I got rid of in the Purge. But he's looking for stuff like Boris the Bear, other black and white boom stuff. So, and of course, if you got any what you would like us to forward to Mr. Travis, you can always get a hold of us.
And we could, I say a future episode, we talk about our experiences during the black and white boom.
Oh,
I
can tell you the sad tale of Fish Police #1.
And I actually bought a copy of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1 the day it came out, and sold it for a rather expensive car stereo.
And are you glad you did?
Yes.
Good.
Because I needed that car stereo for moving up to Minnesota.
Nothing's worse than looking back and realizing you could probably buy a car with that first print #1 now, but such is the way it is.
But at the time, it was get this car stereo or listen to AM radio.
Oh.
And that was a lot of driving, man. But that's not what we're here to talk about.
We're not?
We're here to talk about the draft.
Oh, I love draft root beer. Yum.
Oh, wait, no. We're here to talk about the previews.
We are? Oh,
yes.
Hang on. I'll be back, I promise. Son of a bean. I got it. Don't worry. Whoa! Ow! Oh! Oh, I caught myself in an entrenching tool. Ooh! Ah! Hang on, let me shut the door. Ah! Finger! Shit! Son of a... Okay, I'm ready. I got my previews.
And now we know why you're going to need that hip replaced.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I moved that sucker pretty good. Ugh. Oh,
so on the cover, Valiant 2020, the Year of Heroes.
Oddly enough, we don't buy any Valiant, do we?
In my next box day, I'll be getting the jump drive that has all of the first Valiant comics on it. All of them.
Cool.
And the second one that has all of them up to, I think, 2018.
Now, we should say what we're doing here, because I know we've dropped our podcast on a couple of Facebook pages and picked up some new likes, some new viewers.
And now we're on iHeartRadio. So if you're listening to iHeartRadio, welcome.
Thank you. What we done
got 430 some episodes to go through.
Go ahead and pause this one. We'll be here when you get back.
Okay.
No, every month we like to take the previews catalog, that monstrosity of a thing, and this one is number 374 for November 19th, and we go through it and pick kind of what we're looking forward to. In my case, I'll also mention things that I might buy, things that I'll point out. You know, there are some things that I'll probably wait and pick up as a graphic novel, but there's just ways to hopefully catch your attention on some stuff. And of course, if you go, it's kind of interactive, so you can grab your previews. You got your Diamond previews and your Marvel previews, and you can follow along with us. We pretty much start from the beginning and work our way to the end.
One thing we don't do, we don't go over the books that we buy every month, like Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Because if we did, this episode would be 9 hours long.
Yeah. We might do that when I finally am up and able to sit and podcast later. Just talk about regular up and at them. Hey, did I mention we watch The Simpsons? Anyways, so I will preface this by saying this was a very dull previews catalog for me. I swear for Image, Dark Horse, and DC, there's only like 2 books. I'm like, oh, these are new. I'm kind of interested in. I don't know what it was. Every so often a previews comes along that just is boring. And this one, well, let's see, January books. Still January book syndrome.
It's also got a lot of stuff relisted for shops to stock up for Christmas.
Yeah, there's that, and that's actually something. I don't know if we'll have time before I'm out on my hip break. Get it? Hey, graphic novels make outstanding gifts. Plus, there are so many commercial properties: Ghostbusters, Rick and Morty, Stranger Things. If you got a fan of almost anything, you'll be able to find them something. I mean, Star Wars is big at Marvel, and there's also what IDW's got, easy reader ones. I think Titan's got some stuff. So we'll probably talk a little bit more because are we still planning to do our Black Friday runaround?
Of course.
All right.
I made sure not to work that day.
And I'm off it naturally already. Although at work they're like, if you want to come in, no thanks. So, shall I start?
Sure, go ahead.
All right. There's only, okay, I lied. You'll see I do that a lot. There's one thing in the Image catalog that caught my eye. And again, remember, there's other things I buy, but on page 38, I'm sorry, that's not it. Look at that. See, I'm already wrong. Where did it go? On page 44, I'm sorry. Now, actually, I point that out because on page 38 is something called The Protector Number 1 by Simon Roy, Daniel Benson, artist. I'm not even going to try to slaughter the name. This is a case where it looks really, really good, but I'm going to wait for the graphic novel. So I wasn't going to mention it, but there I did. But what I'm going to buy is on page 44, The Clock, 4-issue miniseries, writer Matt Hawkins and artist Colleen Doran. And I absolutely love Colleen Doran. Of course, not because she actually came to my comic shop way back when as a guest, but I do enjoy her artwork. And since I cannot paraphrase with anything, I'm just going to read it right off. Within 3 weeks, hundreds of millions of healthy people worldwide contract various forms of aggressive cancer, and the proliferation, seemingly a viral outbreak, stumps the best medical minds available. But after a leading cancer researcher loses his wife and is watching his 9-year-old daughter beginning to succumb to the same illness, he must race against the clock to end the global conspiracy that could propel the world straight into World War III or worse. And what I love about Image, they give you 3 pages of art. So, for me, I'm a big Colleen Doran fan, so I would pick this up in this format. I might pick up the graphic novel when it comes out, but this is the number 1 pick and probably the only pick I have from Image this month. Mr. C.
I want to point out a couple of books. First, The Complete Witchblade. Now, Witchblade is a book that Top Cow did kind of after the big Image boom. And this kind of started the what's a nice way to put it? The heavy-breasted female protagonist boom.
But to be fair, Michael Turner did the original art. So
that's why I wanted to point it out. This is the book that made Michael Turner a star. This reprints the first, the first 19 issues, plus the crossover with The Darkness and a couple of issues of Tales of the Witchblade. It's a 624-page trade paperback, but that's as big as kind of a small omnibus for $30. If I remember right at the time, now it's got Warren Ellis, David Halbrin, David Wohl, Christina Z, and David Finch as the writers. This series was kind of a mess. Just so you know, the Warren Ellis stuff was the crossover with the Darkness. He wrote The Darkness. He didn't write Witchblade. But the art is so good. And this was back when, basically it's okay, we're going to sell this as a really hot woman drawn by really good artists. If you want
what did Michael Turner, was he doing, well, Sylvester, of course, one of the original Image guys, but was Turner doing Moon Knight at the time? Is that where he...
No, that's Stephen Platt you're thinking
of.
Oh,
Platt, yeah.
Who I haven't heard of in years.
No, he probably made his millions. He's gone.
But this is the book that made Michael Turner a star. Also a lot of art in here by Billy Tan. This is also a book that made him a star. On the other page is a series that Matt Fraction is doing as hardcovers. It's way pricey, but I still want to point it out because it's Matt Fraction. Alyssa Chartier is doing the art. November Volume 2. One called... Hey,
if you're going to mispronounce crap, I'm bringing nothing to the podcast then.
You realize I talked on the phone for 12 hours today.
Sounds like a you problem.
No, it's a work problem. One phone call for help and all hell breaks loose for three strangers connected by bad luck, a twist of fate, and a gun and a puddle of rain.
Boy, that was a tough day at work for you, wasn't it?
In the middle of a dense criminal underworld, these strangers' lives collide on one fateful and bloody night in this epic novelistic thriller by Matt Fraction. One Night, One City, Three Women, November. Matt Fraction's starting to do more comics again. I absolutely adore his Jimmy Olsen over at DC. I love it. And Sex Criminals is back, by the way.
Oh, my.
Joe, do you know the premise of Sex Criminals?
I did. I actually think I got the first couple of issues in my eBay store.
I actually bought the big hardcovers. What it is that this couple finds that when they have sex, time stops. So they go and steal things.
They must be doing things right.
Yes. So
I haven't heard such ridiculousness since Time Wankers came out from Eros. Look it up, folks.
Hey, if we're talking Arrows, we have to talk their #1 book. Wendy Whitebread, Undercover Slide.
Yes.
But
that's not in preview, so don't look for it.
No, it's not. Although they are in the adult previews, they still have Housewives at Play, which I think has been listed in every preview since 1992.
Yes.
But those are the two books I wanted to point out from Image.
I'm surprised you didn't point out the book about your brother. They're on page 57, The Legacy of Luther Strode, Volume 3.
That's been out before. This is a reprint.
Yeah, but it's back in... I thought you just wanted to... Oh, you don't like your brother. That's right.
No.
Oh, that's too bad. Okay, forget that. I don't recommend it.
I
do for Justin Jordan and Trad and Felipe's, sake, but...
It's a great book. I love that book. But, no, I have a lot of problems with my brother. First off, he's fictional.
Yes.
We just don't get along because of that. Yep. Oh, over at Dark Horse, Joe, what do you see?
On to Dark Horse. Okay, I will point out Stranger Things I mentioned when it comes out because we got to wait a while to the next one. But they're doing a lot of kind of fill-in stuff. Again, if you got fans that are Stranger Things, or if you're one, you should be picking these up or wait for the inevitable graphic novel. So I point that out right on page 80. But the one thing I'm looking for that actually looks kind of interesting is on page 88. And notes on a case of melancholy. can't even pronounce it. Or A Little Death hardcover by Nicholas Gruwich. Death arrives in his darkly humorous and brilliantly illustrated tale created by Nicholas. Death becomes a patient of a recently bereaved psychoanalyst. Topic of discussion: his frolicsome child who has no apparent interest in grim reaping. So that looked like it'd be kind of fun. We often talk about things when we review buy, borrow, or ignore. On the page across from it, page 89, is something I would love to borrow. Black Hammer, Justice League, Hammer of Justice hardcover. Not going to buy it yet, although for $20 a hardcover, that's a pretty decent chunk because they give you, I think it was a 5-issue series. But I don't know. Maybe I might. Like I said, it's not a lot of exciting things this month, so maybe I'll treat myself to that one if push comes to shove. Anything for you, Mr. Strode?
My question is, does Joe know?
Probably not, but go ahead.
I mentioned it a whole bunch of times on this here podcast. What is my favorite video game?
Anything to do with Christina Hendricks, a.k.a. Redhead era, or Pie?
There aren't any Christina Hendricks video games, or I'd be playing them right now. Joe, can you please go to page 107?
Oh, you mean I got to pass by the Kabuki Omnibus Volume 2, which I'm just mentioning because David Mack's got great art?
And because I ordered number 1, it hasn't shown yet, but I am going to order number 2.
Oh!
The Art of Doom Eternal. Doom is my favorite video game. There is a new Doom coming out next year. Dark Horse, I've talked in the past, Dark Horse, when they lost Star Wars, and then they lost Buffy, and they might even be losing Aliens and Predator and all the other things from Fox because Fox owns part of Boom Studios. They're making it up with these Art of Video Game books, which they don't sell real well in comic shops, but they sell phenomenally in bookstores. Art of Doom Eternal, a oversized full-covered hardcover. Art Burke? Is that from Birch? An art book containing concept art and commentary from the development of Doom Eternal, the next entry in the iconic first-person shooter series.
Doom.
They do a fantastic job on these, by the way. It's not just the concept art and the early computer art. They go deep into how the art for the games is created. They have interviews with creators. It's really kind of a behind-the-scenes book for hardcore fans of the game. And I'm a hardcore fan of Doom, so I'm looking forward to this one.
Nothing else, Dark Horse?
Nothing else, Dark Horse. They did not have a lot of new stuff that jumped out at me.
Yep. All right, on to DC. For me, I've got a couple comics, and then we always break it in two. We'll do some comics and then talk about the graphic novels in back. For me, the two that I'm interested in, they're doing the big prestige format for Wonder Woman at Wonder Woman 750. Same thing they did with Action and Detective. I'm on board. I'll get all three. The question I have, and I haven't checked prices, which variant cover to get? Oh, I'd love to do Campbell. I'd love to do George Perez, Brian Boland, Adam Hughes, Jim Lee, Scott Williams. Even the other three, I haven't decided which one I'm going for. I believe they're all orderable. I don't believe they're like, this is a order, this you have to order so many of, because DC's done that in the past where you could almost get any of them. And, we've got the source nearby. They pretty much order almost every variant cover they can. And so if I need to, I'll probably get some. But it's just a who's who of talent, including Colleen Doran, which we were, or at least I was praising earlier. So, Corey, if you had a choice between variant covers, which one do you think you'd grab?
Oh, I would get Perez. No question. Wonder Woman is not a character that I have a large fondness for. And the more I think about it, the more I think it's because it's not, oh, I don't like women superheroes, because I do. I think it's more, I don't like the Greek mythology. And it's probably because, being a Marvel kid, I always liked the Nordic mythology. And Greek mythology, that stuff I have to read about in school. Which is weird when I go back about it because, wow, my teachers really cleaned up the fact that Zeus would screw everything.
Everything, yeah. Well, I guess I won't be mentioning on page 85 the Wonder Woman by George Press Volume 4 trade paperback.
I don't need it.
Mainly because I need it because I don't have any of his stuff anymore.
I have the 3 omnibuses.
Yeah, I know that's your east wall, if I do recall. Yeah, no, me, I'm doing the volumes myself and what they're doing, which is nice, is they list all 4 of the other ones in the order code, so you can get them from your friendly neighborhood comic shop.
On the next page is a book I don't know if I'll be getting, but I want to point out the story behind it because this is a weird story behind this. Last year, they announced that Brian Azzarello and, let's see, Emmanuel Lapacino and Ray McCarthy were going to be doing a Birds of Prey series. Then it was a mini-series. Now it's a 96-page one-shot.
But it's a high-acting graphic novel length one-shot. Oh, well.
In movies, when it comes to movies, you know when a studio looks at a movie and goes, yeah, this is a bomb, because it comes out in February or September or January. You know, there are certain times they just dump a movie, or when a movie was announced to be in theaters and then it's a Netflix premiere, like they did with that third Cloverfield movie and a couple others, where it was, okay, it's not going to play in theaters, just dump it on Netflix to get some money out of it. This is the comics version of that. Yeah, we didn't like what they were doing, so okay, wrap it up and we'll put it out as a 100-pager. The next page, James Tynion IV takes over Batman. So a new writer, new creative team on Batman. Joe, what is really interesting about this?
I don't know. I passed over it.
It's not a new number 1.
Ooh. To be fair, I probably would have passed over it even if it was a new number 1. But yeah, they're rolling. They want to get to that Batman 100, even though they kind of dumped Mr. King to do it. I'm just casting aspersion. That's none of my business here. But, you know, I'm just saying.
He'll be finishing up his story in a book that comes out next year called Batman/Catwoman.
Ah, that explains all the DC dollar things they're pushing real hard.
Yep. Your 100-page giants for January are Batman Giant number 3, Crisis on Infinite Earths Giant number 2. However, Crisis on Infinite Earths Giant number 1 has been pushed back. Superhero Girls Giant number 2 and Teen Titans Go Giant number 2. Look for these to change.
Yeah.
Because
probably.
I think one of them has actually been outright canceled, and they say we're going to put out another book instead, but they haven't announced what it is.
The only other comic for me is back on page 8. I'm looking at Superman Heroes number 1, just because it ties in with the whole revelation of Superman's secret identity to the world. It's only $5.99. I mean, if it was like a $10 one shot, I would probably have passed on it. But this ain't too bad. I'll probably pick it up because it does tie into the rest of the Superman stories. But that's it, me comic book wise.
Yeah, there wasn't anything that really jumped out as new and exciting other than those. Everything else just seems to be kind of rolling along.
I do got to admit, I did not pick up on the Joe Hill book this month. I've been real excited about the comic line, but this one just didn't do it for me. So I might go back and look at it because, again, I've been enjoying the other ones. So I think it's Daphne Byrne. Is that John Byrne's daughter or something? Yeah. I'm not sure. So, but that one didn't quite do it for me. Again, I may change my mind. I'm trying to see if it says, doesn't really say if it's a one shot. Maybe, well, it doesn't. Yeah, used to, they'll say like, how many issues in the series, but well, I'll figure that out when I look at it. For the dollar comics this month, there are a lot of tie-ins with Batman. The only one I may get is the Brave and Bold 197, which has the Golden Age Batman and Catwoman. And it says it's a tale of their wedding. So I'll maybe pick that one up.
I think if you want to invest in dollar comics, which sounds crazy, but they are reprinting one of the most expensive comics of the past 25 years or so, Batman Adventures number 12, which is the first Harley Quinn comic book adventure. And when I look at the credits, it's like, oh yeah, I have this because I bought everything Mike Parobeck drew. So this is in a box somewhere, so I may just dig that thing up and see what the eBays has to say about it.
Well, while we talk on graphic novels, I will go take a look.
Let's see, graphic novel wise, I keep hearing really good things about Batman White Knight, and there is a deluxe version available. So I may just go ahead and get this one. It's by Sean Murphy, who did Punk Rock Jesus, which was a book I absolutely adored. And he drew Joe the Barbarian, which, despite the title, is not about crazy Joe Ryder. It's a Grant Morrison book. So that one I'm excited about. And then on the next page, on page 76, Ex Machina Compendium number 1. They reprint the entire Ex Machina series. It's going to be in 2 trade paperbacks, I do believe. This one, it's a $60 trade paperback for 664 pages, reprints, issues 1 through 25, and Ex Machina Special. If you don't know what Ex Machina is, it is a book written by Brian K. Vaughan. It is a world where only one person is a superhero that we know of, and he is able to speak to and understand machines. And this had one of the coolest first issues ever, because in it he's been elected mayor of New York. And then we flash back to his time as a superhero to see how this happened. And he talks about how he failed on 9/11. And the shock ending at the end of the first issue is he was able to stop one of the planes from crashing into one of the towers. So there is a single World Trade Center tower. And Joe's still playing on the eBays, right?
Yeah, I found somebody who's actually, I don't know if I can't tell if he's selling a comic book for like $12, but most of them are pretty expensive.
Oh, yeah. Thing didn't sell real well when it came out because it was Batman Adventures, even though that was the best Batman book at the time. They have resolicited Famous First Edition, New Fun number 1. I like that they're calling it Famous First Edition because that was what they called their tabloid reprints in the 70s. When they would reprint Action number 1 and Detective 27 and Sensation and stuff like that. So it's still $20 for the 48 pages.
Yeah, I mentioned the Wonder Woman thing. The only other thing I'm looking at is on page 72, The Animal Man by Grant Morrison, book 1. I mean, it's one of those that I've always wanted. I mean, I've been looking at the omnibuses. I haven't fired on it yet, but I may just jump along with the hardcover this is the trade paperback. I thought for sure I had the hardcover somewhere because last year they came out with 30th anniversary book 1 hardcover, and I don't see it anywhere. Not that it means anything. I mean, my pile of stuff is still as crazy as ever. But if I don't have it, I would probably pick this up, and then hopefully by another year, they might cough up a volume 2 and do all of Grant Morrison's run. So I'm looking forward to that. I know my daughters are interested in it, and I haven't picked that up. Thinking I haven't picked up the Doom Patrol he did either, so I got a lot of catching up to do. But that's it for me pretty much DC-wise. Anything else got you going, Cory?
There are some few things that I want to point out. I am going to be picking up the Spectre, Wrath of the Spectre Omnibus, even though it's a smaller book. It's only like around 800 pages, which for 125 bucks, although for us it's 67.50. But it reprints all of the Spectre from after his series was canceled. So it's got the issues of Showcase, his appearances in Brave and the Bold. Oh wait, it does have the first 10 issues of the Spectre, but it's mostly for the Adventure Comics run that was written by Michael Fleischer and drawn by Jim Aparo, which was, for its time, exceedingly violent. The Spectre would do things like turn a criminal into, make him a wooden statue and then run him through a buzzsaw. Really groundbreaking at the time. I've read most of those stories. There is one that was completed but not printed at the time. They reprinted it in a when they did those prestige format reprints in the 80s. So I'm looking to pick this one up. And then right under that, this is not one that I would be picking up now, but I would imagine that at the time when it came out, I would have been excited about it. Superman, the Man of Steel Omnibus by John Byrne. They're going to reprint all of the stuff he did for Superman. Of course, Marv Wolfman and Jerry Ordway were working on Action Comics. But this is going to have... they were working on... Yeah, they were working on Action. Adventures of Superman,
Byrne did.
You're right.
Action was the crossover.
Action
that was kind of like a Brave and Bold.
Book.
Yeah. And Adventures was Wolfman, and Superman was Byrne, yeah.
So this has all of that from the post-crisis kind of Superman reboot, which I really liked it at the time. My only problem is that Byrne, of course, screwed the pooch with the ending, and it took them almost a year to fix what he'd done. And also there's some other things in Byrne's run that really are skeevy and wrong. The whole porno Big Barda story. Every time I'm reading the run and I get to that, it's like, what editor allowed this? And Mike Carlin's has said that he didn't have any power to stop Byrne as long as it went through the comics code, but they've retconned that baby away because that was skeevy as hell.
Skeevy.
Yeah. But if you're a Byrne fan, here you go. Here's the Byrne Superman. Also, if you haven't read it, it's a solid read. It's a well-done Superman. I really enjoy it. There is also a trade paperback coming out of Tales of the Dark Multiverse. It's the, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 issues that they've done of the Tales of the Dark Multiverse. And, Joe, do you remember when they were going to do that Jonah Hex omnibus, and then they canceled it?
Yep.
Well, now it's Weird Western Tales Jonah Hex, which costs about the same and is only about 2/3 of the size.
Yeah.
This reprints all the stuff from All-Star Western and Weird Western Tales right up to when Jonah Hex got his own series. So that's one of those where it's like the price is way too high for what it's $100 for 528 pages. That's way too much. And I've got them in the showcases. And really, Tony DeZungia and Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, although I need to say that right. Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. Their artwork's much better in black and white anyway. And that was it for me on DC.
Me as well. Next up, IDW. I got nothing. I bet I'm not buying stuff, but nothing new.
Let me look through. There was a couple things, I think.
And this is one of those companies that I talk about. I mean, they have some really good stuff, and you may be, Sonic the Hedgehog. I can talk. Hedgehog.
We're both all tongue-tied tonight.
Oh, yeah. Ghostbusters. They got the Transformer license. G.I. Joe. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are there. Napoleon Dynamite, Usagi Yamamoto, Cobra Sai, The Karate Kid, Star Trek, Dungeons and Dragons, Glow, Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, Gears of War. I mean, they got some awesome properties. I'm just not, and again, they got the kids one we were talking about, Star Wars Adventures, and they've got the Marvel easy. I don't know what you call it, easy reader line, young reader line.
The young reader line. I want to point out something with this: that 3 of the 5 books that they have this month are reprints, and the Marvel Action Classics, Avengers starring Doctor Strange. Avengers starring Doctor Strange. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That actually reprints the Marvel Adventures superhero book that Marvel did back in the 2000s. So once again, Marvel's getting more use out of those.
Yep. I didn't even mention a bunch of Disney comics. You know, there's Disney comics and stories, Uncle Scrooge, DuckTales. So yeah, don't just because My Little Pony. How can I forget that? That's huge. But just because we're not saying it, you may see something there that you like. And of course, in the back, there's always the artistic or artesian editions.
Actually, there's a couple differences with those. So the artisan edition for Jack Kirby, that's a 40-page. I'm sorry, that's a $40 book. It's soft cover. It's 8x12, so it's not as big as the original art, but it is reprinting the original art pages. It's got Fantastic Four Annual number 6, issues 71, 82, 83, and 84, shot from the original art. But if you go back a page to page 150, they are putting out a new version of Parker, the Martini edition, which is a omnibus. Before he passed away, Darwin Cook did adaptations of the Parker novels, which are novels by Donald Westlake under the name Richard Stark of a criminal just known as Parker. This was a series of over 15 books. I don't know how many there are off the top of my head. I just started reading them over the past couple of years. But if, the $100 price tag is too much for you, they do have them available as soft covers. The Hunter, the Score, the Outfit, and Slayground. I recommend all of these books wholeheartedly. Darwin Cook captures that feeling of 50s pop art and tells just fantastic adaptations of these crime novels. You'll get hooked. You'll get hooked. He's such an amazing storyteller, and the work is tremendous. So highly, highly recommended on that one. And now, Marvel.
Oof. Where to start? I mean,
let's start with Thor #1 because they've got preview pages and everything. They're doing a midnight release of Thor #1, Joe.
And if you're interested, you will not find it in your order form because they all have August order codes. So go to your comic store and tell them you want the Hidden Gem variant cover by Jack Kirby. It'll probably cost you a bit. But yeah, all these code numbers they've been ordered by your friendly neighborhood comic shop. But you're going to have to tell them, hey, I want this Thor #1 and which, if any, of the variants you want.
Now, they are on sale on 1/1 of 20, but they announced that there is a midnight sale if stores want to do it. And I'm going to get the December here.
Yeah, that would be Tuesday night into Wednesday.
No, because they will be doing it Christmas night.
Oh, so it's not 1/1?
No, they are releasing it early, and stores are going to be closed on Christmas, except the stores that want to open up at midnight on Christmas. I can't see a lot of stores.
And the thing is, when I had my store, Big Mike, he might have done that. Because a lot of times when I was closed on a holiday, he didn't really do much on holidays. So he would open up like Memorial Day for 5 hours or July 4th or whatever. Christmas, well, actually he might not because he worked at that cowboy joint, the Rope and Dope down in Inver Grove Heights. The rodeo is what it was called. And they always said Christmas was a big night for them. So
Oh
you
yeah.
might not have done it. But yeah, Marvel, not your brightest idea. Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not. So I will pick mine up if I care to the normal time on the 26th when my comic shop opens. Are you excited about this Thor though?
I like Donny Cates. He's kind of Marvel's fair-haired boy right now. Um, I like Thor, and I'm excited about what they're going to do with him. So
I'm gonna either wait for the graphic novel or the omnibus in 10 years.
Guardians of the Galaxy has Al Ewing taking over as writer, which he's the guy writing Indestructible Hulk right now. He's been writing really good stuff for a long time, but he's finally starting to get some attention.
I think I'm going to wait for the inevitable graphic novel or the omnibus in 10 years.
And now we have Marvel's got two big event things going. First is Iron Man 2020.
I am definitely waiting for the omnibus on this. I was excited about this, and then I saw all the tie-ins, and I was like,
Wait, you're not excited about Force Works coming back?
No. Yeah, I mean, and it's the same thing when they did Absolute Carnage. I just kind of, you know what? There will be an omnibus. There will be some books. I'll pick them up that way. Maybe, I really want to borrow these. I don't really care to own them. No offense, Mr. Slot or Mr. Gage.
18 tie-in issues.
Yeah, no, you lost me at the tie-in issues. I'm sure I could probably just stick with the regular books, but it's a robot rebellion with everybody fighting and a couple classified books. Ooh.
Thank goodness they're not till May and June, though.
Yeah.
I hate when they do that. Oh, this is a classified book. Finally, the one that Heavy Metal solicited over a year ago came out. And it was a book called Soft Wood, and it was a comedy book with, actually, it was about half reprints. This is not the book that would blow us away. The next crossover thing is Frank
Arkham
Thierry.
Asylum. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was Raven's I'm sorry. I misspoke. I'm getting all mixed up.
Frank Thierry has come back to Marvel after a stint over at DC, and he's doing a Ravencroft thing. Ravencroft is kind of the Arkham Asylum of Marvel, where it's the mental asylum for supervillains, and they're basically going to be restarting that for True Believers Month.
All the criminally insane people.
So we've got the first appearance of Mandarin. He's not crazy. Gypsy Moth.
Bushman. Green Goblin. Bullseye.
Got an early Dracula.
Yeah,
the Purple Man.
I thought he was dead. Claw. Absorbing Man. So what's cool, I mean, this actually kind of I'm interested in, but I think, again, you've got, three one-shots, and then a 5-issue series, and another one-shot that has a bunch of reprints of stuff in the past. But True Believers are kind of interesting just because they are reprinting some really early stuff and some first appearances, so it could be good.
I like me some. I love the True Believers. I really do. They're fun.
And Dollar Comics, be it, Image has done them. Almost everybody's been doing them, and I do love the Dollar Comics.
And they're reprinting stuff in many cases on better paper than it's been on in forever, like that Moon Knight. Oh, I remember when Moon Knight #1 came out, it had that wonderful Sienkiewicz art, but the printing was so god awful. You were like, this is really muddy, and I could tell that there's cool stuff underneath. We're getting new versions of The End. The End were miniseries that Marvel did years ago, this is the last story of these heroes. They did a X-Men one. Of course, the X-Men one by Chris Claremont was 3 6-issue miniseries.
Yeah. The only one of these I'm picking up is the Captain America, The End, #1, because I like Eric Larson. I month after month I buy Savage Dragon when it's solicited, And when I see him come and do the mainstream stuff, I'm interested in it. The other ones I'm not that interested in.
Well, I know this
Doctor
is
Strange, maybe.
I know this is going to be a trade paperback, so I'll just pick up the trade.
And that's the other thing. I might just do it as a trade too. I haven't really decided. To hate to tell you, that's it for me for new comics or anything. I do want to point out that Star Wars is starting up with a #1. We talked about this a while back. This Star Wars #1 takes place after Empire Strikes Back. So the first series took place before what we now call New Hope. And
no, it took place after New Hope.
After New Hope, thank you. And
it took
so
the place
this
of Shadows of the Empire.
This is kind of the shoehorn between the next two. I don't know how many issues it'll last. So I think it's kind of a neat idea. I'm waiting for the big ass omnibus, but that's just me.
One thing I will tell you, I'm pretty sure this issue won't sell 1 million copies like the first one did because Loot Crate went belly up.
Yeah.
There is another series that I want to point out. Kind of surprised you didn't. Again, I'll be buying this as a trade, but Marvel's X. That's right. Alex Ross and Jim Cougar, who did Universe X and Earth X, are now doing kind of a version of that for Marvels. And it is, let's see here. David has a problem. He lives in a world of monsters that would love to devour him. He's the last boy on Earth, the last human being on Earth, and these creatures only see him as prey. They're his former neighbors. He has one hope, to get to New York, to get to where Captain America and the rest of the heroes are. This is a prequel to the legendary Earth X trilogy. Also, they have announced that there will be a Marvel's kind of anthology series by Alex Ross and Kurt Busiek. That'll probably be in next month's previews, but Alex Ross coming back to Marvel, and Marvel probably pretty happy to have him.
There is, I can't tell the page number because Marvel doesn't like page numbers, but if you like your Avengers Defender fights, well, Alan Davis and Paul Renaud, maybe I got that right, Terrell, #1, 4-issue miniseries. So you've got the, let's see, I see a strange and impossible lost memory from the days of World War II draws Namor to his one-time compatriot Captain America, but the two heroes and their respective allies find themselves pulled into a labyrinth of pain, destruction, and madness. So I figured for 4 issues, that sounds like it'd be kind of fun.
And now back in the trades and hardcovers, Joe, you remember that Cloak and Dagger series that was on Freeform?
No.
No one else did either. It's canceled after 2 seasons.
Oh,
but just in time, Marvel's doing a Cloak and Dagger omnibus.
Omnibuy?
No, just one.
Oh.
Cloak and Dagger, that Rick Leonardi cover, by the way, is awesome. One of the things that's fascinated me always about Cloak and Dagger is when they first hit, they were red hot. They were a red hot character, and they could not get them into a book fast enough. And once they did, the book just kind of died. And they've kind of floundered around the Marvel Universe since, with nobody quite knowing what to do with them. But those first, I would say the first, the appearances in Spider-Man and the 2 series that they did, I really liked. I even kind of liked the Mutant Misadventures of Cloak and Dagger, because Terry Austin was, he'd never written before, and I really enjoyed his writing. But, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's worth an omnibus to me. I'll be thinking about it. On the next page, however, is one of the omnibuses that I bought. I think this was the second omnibus I ever bought. Amazing Fantasy Omnibus. Second printing. This reprints Amazing Adventures, which was the series that introduced Dr. Droom, who became Dr. Druid. Amazing Adult Fantasy, numbers 7 through 14, which was a series where Stan Lee and Steve Ditko did short stories, short twist ending stories, and Stan absolutely loved working with Ditko on those, to the point where that's why he put adult on the cover. He was trying to pull in an older readership.
And how could you not, with the terror of Timbooba?
And the magazine that respects your intelligence. Stan really, really loved this stuff. And then there was Amazing Fantasy 15, where nothing happened.
Nothing. Never last.
That was the last issue. They just threw in some crap that nobody cared about. Again, we have a Marvel Masterworks that makes me depressed.
Yeah.
Issues Spectacular Spider-Man 32 through 42, the first annual, the Spider-Man annual, and the Fantastic Four tie-in. I bought most of these out of 50-cent bins. However, I am very torn, Joe. I am very torn.
So you want to buy another copy of Ghost Rider graphic novel?
No.
Ghost Rider.
Steranko is
Ooh.
revolutionary. King size. This is another one of those comics that's like you could use it as a door. It reprints Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. 1 through 3 and number 5, the ones by Steranko, and Strange Tales 151 through 68, so his entire S.H.I.E.L.D. run. It's $100, 330 pages. These things are huge. They are beautiful. But I have this as an omnibus. Do I want to buy it again? I don't know. But I am buying the omnibus on the next page, which is Morbius the Living Vampire. It gathers up all the Morbius stories, including his own series, his appearances in Spider-Man, his team-up issues, and the stuff from Vampire Tales, the Marvel Black and White magazine. So it collects everything up to when he wasn't used much anymore because Jim Shooter didn't like vampires. And, finishing up the omnibuses, that's why when Joe said, oh, there's a boring month, it's like, oh, this is a month that's going to cost. Savage Sword of Conan, the original Marvel Years Omnibus Volume 3, reprints Savage Sword of Conan 29 through 44, and Marvel Comics Super Special number 9, which was a color Conan story in magazine form. I think it was the first one that they did. This is the good stuff. This is the crack. You got John Buscema, Ernie Chan, Sal Buscema, and Frank Brunner. There's also some Carmine Infantino there, so you have been warned. Joe?
I got nothing.
There's also the Uncanny X-Men Omnibus Volume 1 is being reprinted.
Yep. No, there's nothing here this month that's got me excited.
Not even History of the Marvel Universe Treasury Size Edition?
Nope, got the comics. Don't need the Treasury. And again, the Thor by Jason Aaron. Yes, I'm 12 years behind, but I will get caught up eventually. I'm Volume 2. So
let's see if there was anything in the trade paperbacks that jumped out at me. Tales Through the Marvel Universe reprints a lot of those one-shots that Marvel... No, this is Marvel Comics Presents 1 through 9. I'm sorry, I thought this was the book that reprinted all of the one-shots they've been doing.
Yeah. Well, on page 149, you got the Black Widow Epic Collection, which is interesting because, again, that's all the early stuff from her first appearance. I don't even know her. Was it Avengers?
No, Iron Man. She was an Iron Man villain.
Okay,
That's
well, they don't have her.
You'll see Tales of Suspense.
Yeah. So that looks interesting, especially if you've never read
the stuff
before.
that was in the omnibus a little while back.
Omnibus?
Yeah, the omnibus a couple months ago. On the page before that, there is a Taskmaster trade paperback.
You can do. He can do better. Although Batman did kick his ass.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
When you get to the Epic collections, the Punisher one is toward the middle of the Punisher run. It's when Mike Baron and Chuck Dixon were kind of in charge of the Punisher books. And, they did good adventure stories. Right next to it, this is Spider-Man kind of at his post-Ditko peak. This is The Secret of the Petrified Tablet. Stan Lee, John Romita Sr., some John Buscema stuff in there. It reprints Amazing Spider-Man 68 through 85 and annuals 5 and 6. This is really good stuff. And then on the next page, they're reprinting Fantastic Four Epic Collection, The Coming of Galactus, number 3. This is when Fantastic Four went from a cool superhero series to an epic cosmic drama. And it does reprint Fantastic Four 33 through 51, so it has the best issue of the Fantastic Four in it, number 51. The Marvel Epic Collections, one of the things they have said is they will keep these in print. So once they sell out, they will be reprinting them. But it's 3 Black Widow books this month. I wonder, is there a Black Widow movie coming? There is? Oh.
I'm shocked.
They also reprint 4 of the End books. And I want to point out the best one of the bunch, which is Hulk, The End.
Yes.
Peter David, drawn by George Perez. George Perez actually drew Future Imperfect, and they have that in there. And Dale Keown drew Hulk, The End. This is a fantastic book. Future Imperfect was a 2-part miniseries that was set in the future when Hulk has become kind of the ruler of the world. And it's George Perez at his peak, Peter David just knocking it out of the park, and then The End was a fantastic coda to that. Absolutely adored this. I also like Fantastic Four The End. It's written in pencil by Alan Davis. That's a good one. Hopefully this means they're going to get the X-Men The End trade paperbacks out, because they came and went so fast that I didn't get them. And that is it for me for Marvel.
I got nothing for Dynamite. They're next.
I
mean, and again, there's some fun stuff. It's just, Red Sonja, Age of Chaos, Game of Thrones, Clash of Kings. But nothing for me that I'm not already buying.
They are collecting Red Sonja and Vampirella Meet Betty and Veronica, which is still going, by the way. I thought it was a miniseries, but they're already up to issue 8. I don't know. Is this a book that's going to go on for the rest of our lives?
Probably. That's how they suck us into it.
And then a Vampirella Red Sonja. Everybody gets to meet everybody over at Dynamite.
Yes. It's not even like it's. If we're going to have a Kevin Bacon of the comic world, who's going to be the Kevin Bacon?
I'm pretty sure it's going to be Vampirella.
Okay, yeah, she's seen almost everybody so far. I will point out, if you need a bottle opener, you can get a Chaos Smiley, the Psychotic Button bottle opener on page 185.
That was the one thing about Chaos. When they were big in the 90s, it wasn't just the comics. They had tons and tons of merch. And the people who loved the Chaos comics bought it all, man.
Oh, we sold lots of it at Hot Comics when I owned it. I actually told the guys that when I saw them at, it was when you and I went to the San Diego Comic-Con 2001, and I ran into guys and I said, dudes, whatever you make, we will sell. And they were happy to hear that, even though they went out of business later. But different reason for that. Who's next? Boom?
Boom!
I
want to point out something weird about Boom.
Something weird? Other than the Teenage Morphin or Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle 5-issue crossover?
Yeah, my son 20 years ago would have loved that.
Oh, yeah.
But no, with Boom, their new series that aren't media tie-ins are exploding.
Yes, I was going to mention that one that I raved about for 10 seconds last episode when I did my 20-second thing. Something is Killing the Children is now an ongoing series. It was going to be just a mini series, but it's going to go on for the duration, and it is wonderful. I don't get creeped out by a lot of comic books, but this one definitely does.
And I guess, what is their other series that just started? I don't remember the name of it, but they overprinted they printed 50,000 copies, and they didn't have 50,000 orders, and they overprinted by another 10,000. They were gone before, they were basically sold out day of.
I'm not sure which one it is, if it's a Red Mother or... Yeah, we'll research that and get back to you. Probably in about 10 years, but...
man, Boom is knocking it out of the park with these books. There was nothing new that jumped out at me this month, however.
Yeah, same thing here. Now, take a quick break, grab yourself a tasty beverage, because now we're doing all the rest. Let's see. Alphabetically in Action Lab on page 226. I'll allow you a moment to move your page forward. I'm a sucker for a good time travel story, so this one caught my attention. The Time Shopper. Admit it, you would do this if you could. I mean, Carl basically has a time machine, a giant pile of cash, and a mission. Go back in time and stop history's biggest disasters from happening. Problem is, when he goes back in time, he becomes obsessed with how affordable things are in ancient times. Now, as he travels from one key moment to the next, he is time shopping. Will he fix history? Will he end history? Will he be fired? Killed by a time-traveling robot? And look at the guests that'll be here. JFK, Franz Ferdinand, Judas Iscariot, Steve Jobs, Adolf Hitler's mom. This is Mel Brooks' History of the World meets Supermarket Sweep. Yeah, I'm on this one.
Back in American mythology, they are actually bringing back a couple. They're bringing back Hot Stuff Sizzlers, which amazes me. Hot Stuff was basically he was the Harvey Devil character, and I think he is more famous for being a tattoo than he is for the comics.
Yeah, what was interesting about that is if you look on the same pages, they've got a Zorro comic that they're doing from Dell. I believe it was a Disney movie, because I have that original Dell comic, and a while back I'd made the comment like, who has the rights to these Dell comics? Because I was bemoaning the fact, why didn't you, when the Monkeys were big, reprint all the Monkeys stuff? Or reprint, that was Golden Key, but reprint Beatles' Yellow Submarine, and when Titan came out with a graphic novel with the whole thing. So there is a way to do it, and hopefully American Guys Entertainment there is listening to us. I should say American Mythology.
It is not an adaptation of the movie. They just used a photo from the movie. However, these are two Alex Toth stories. And Alex Toth's Zorro has been reprinted a bunch of times. It's unbelievably good art. Alex Toth was one of these guys who he would, Joe, how you looked at stuff and went, wow, there's a lot of lines there. Oh, wait, no, that was somebody else. Alex Toth never had a line that didn't need to be there. He was a minimalist artist, and his stuff was beautiful because of it. If you've never seen any Alex Toth, pick it up.
They say this is from 4-Color Comics 882.
Yep, and it lists the two stories.
Yeah, which I believe was a Disney one, but I'm looking it up here while we, courtesy of our atomicavenue.com. For a while there, I actually had an idea I would buy one of all the 4 colors, but then I realized the only ones I cared about were the actual
the movie adaptations.
And that's the more photo covers.
Oh, okay.
Because I like that. All right, hang on a second. 883, 885, 882. Yeah, Walt Disney presents Zorro. So obviously Disney does not have a piece of this. They don't list and they don't list who did the art. So again, they're using the cover but they said it's from Four Color Comics, so go figure. Boy, maybe, and considering a near mint copy is like $150, that's not such a bad deal.
No.
Hopefully they could do some other Dell stuff. That would be kind of again, we've been raving about Marvel DC. Why not do some Dell stuff? You got our attention.
I think it depends on who holds the license. Because
they don't have the files anymore. You can see, did they keep them or toss them?
However, anymore, all you got to do is get a copy of the comic and you can scan it and use Photoshop to remove the color. It's not like it used to be where you would have to, bleach the pages in order to then get new film like Greg Theakston used to do. Or I forget who it was. Somebody talked about how when they did it, they would hang the pages of the comic in the window so that the sun would bleach them out. Which, boy, you would really hope that you're in a desert or something, because if you're here in Minnesota, I think we had the sun out like 3 days in the last month.
Yeah. Okay. You like Archie, don't you, Cory?
I do.
Do you like Katie Keene?
I do.
Oh, do I have something for you?
I hear Archie and Sabrina did not last.
Nope.
They haven't broken up in the comic yet, but they will, because Archie is now dating Katie Keene.
He's a fickle man, that Archie. And you can enjoy it for 5 issues. Archie 710. It's Archie and Katie Keene. Dress to Impress, starting January 8th. And again, what Archie does, which is kind of cool, is they allow you to buy any of the variant covers you want. And for me, I was torn between the Bill Tucci cover E, or the cover D by Paul Renaud. And there's a cover, well, I guess cover A is just the black and white glory. But I've been sticking with Archie ever since they rebooted this version with Mark Waid. So I'll keep going. We'll see what happens.
If you jump to page 277, Comic Mix, which is a website and a publisher, they are reprinting a bunch of Whisper, which started out at Capital City Comics. Oh, Capital City Comics. Was that? Yes, it was owned by Cap City Distribution. And it then was picked up by First Comics, but this was a series by Stephen Grant. The first few issues were by Rich Larson. This was a great comic in the 80s. What it was, let me see here. Alex Devlin was trained in martial arts by her Japanese stepfather to make her healthy. It saved her when she became a target. She thought that putting on a mask would make her a superhero, but she's about to learn that while the world needs heroes, they aren't the kind you see in comic books. This was Stephen Grant was doing excellent stuff. He also did that first Punisher miniseries that with Mike Zeck that still holds up to this day. Whisper was a very morally ambiguous world, and right and wrong were very blurred. Alex Devlin was a fascinating character, and Whisper is one of those books that it was never a big hit, but it was one that when it was coming out from First, it was always toward the top of my pile, because it always had great action and the story had enough twists to keep you interested. You've probably never heard of it. The only problem with this reprint is, it's 339 pages, but it's 6x9, so it's smaller than a regular comic. And the art may take a hit, but they do say it's remastered. Joe?
I am way ahead of you on page 337. Source Point Press has another miniseries coming out, Apocalypse Girl, from Les Garner. 6 issues. Upon returning from the makeshift foxhole where her papa sent her to hide from the raiders, Anna finds his tattered bodies ripped apart in a manner she recognizes to be the work of the creatures he referred to as hunter fiends. She is thrust into the position of now having to fend for herself while balancing the lifelong lessons from Papa with her own desire for retribution. Hey, you had me at Apocalypse Girl. What can I say? The last Source Point Press I recommended was the Ogres miniseries, which is extremely popular. On the next page, issue 3 of 4 of the second series is out. So I'm not saying I know what I'm talking about, but maybe I know what I'm talking about, you know?
I'm going to go back to page 279.
Yeah, you're going to get your workout on this previews.
Why, yes, I am. And you as a listener are too. But
Watch out for paper cuts.
Drawn and Quarterly has a bunch of their books relisted, and I want to point out a couple. First is Clyde Fans. 20 years in the making, legendary Canadian cartoonist Seth's landmark series Clyde Fan shows the rituals, hopes, and delusions of a middle class that has long ceased to exist in North America. Abe and Simon Matchcard are brothers, second generation, struggling to save their archaic family business. What it is, these are two brothers who have different ways of viewing the world, and they have inherited their father's fan factory. This is a slow, beautifully drawn, melancholy graphic novel. It takes its time. This is not slam bang action. This is a novel that happens to be a comic. The other book that's listed by Seth, which I recommend constantly, is on the same page. It's a Good Life If You Don't Weaken. This may be my favorite graphic novel of all time. While trying to understand his ennui, Seth discovers the life and work of Kalo, a forgotten New Yorker cartoonist from the 40s, but his obsession blinds him to the needs of his lover and the quiet desperation of his family. Wry self-reflection and moody colors characterize this tale about learning lessons from nostalgia. His playful and sophisticated experiment with memoir provoked a furious debate among cartoon historians and archivists about the existence of Kalo, prompted by a details feature about this book. This was fiction, but Seth never said it was fiction, and the character was based on him at a time when before this Seth was doing a lot of autobiographical stuff. I picked it up after the trade paperback was out. We all knew it was fiction, but there were a lot of people furious when the book was being put out in comic form because they assumed it was an autobiographical piece, and it wasn't. But this is just a beautiful book. This is the one that puts Seth on the map. Seth does the art and design for the Peanuts books that Fantagraphics puts out. And when you read this book, you'll see why. He has that same very 50s, very melancholic style. Very, I don't want to say monotone, it's more duotone. The color is very muted, and this is a book that will stick with you for a long time after you've read it. One other reprint I want to point out, because Joe's jumping ahead so far.
Actually, before you go too far ahead, I'll mention a couple Drawn and Quarterly books because I want to be highfalutin like you and mention some of the good stuff. And on that same page, 279, is one that I read and recommended way, way long ago. I'll give a Joe prize to whoever can find out. Moon Cop by Tom Gauld. The lunar colony is slowly winding down like a small town, circumvented by a new superhighway. I read this one, enjoyed it. Kind of your daily Zen lesson, just kind of peaceful. The next page was another one, Pyongyang, A Journey in North Korea, about a gentleman who was one of the few Westerners to be allowed access to the work in North Korea while he was working animation for a French company. I'm fascinated by North Korea, and this is an excellent look inside. And then kitty corner to that, Woman's World, one I've mentioned a couple times. And it's basically, basically a birth defect wipes out all the planet's men. And this is the women that rise out of society after it. Excellent books, and I've read all three of them. And when they show up on Drawn and Quarterly, I suppose I'll mention them every so often, just for the hell of it.
Now, Joe, when your children were young, did you read the Harold and the Purple Crayon books to them?
Absolutely.
Did you know that Crockett Johnson the person who did the Harold and the Purple Crayon books, was a comic strip artist before he did those books.
I was not, although I know where you're going with this, and I'll say when I discovered this book, I was like, that looks an awful like Harold and the Purple Crayon. And
yes,
it was.
Before he did Harold and the Purple Crayon, Crockett Johnson did a comic strip called Barnaby, which is about a young boy and his fairy godfather who's not really very good at the job. This is a wonderful comic strip. When I looked it up, Dorothy Parker, the writer and for the New Yorker who reviewed books and stuff, talked about how this was the one thing she could always count on to bring her joy. This is a wonderful, wonderful comic strip. As you read it, you're drawn into the fantasy world that Barnaby kind of creates in his mind with his fairy godfather. And you'll see a lot of where Calvin and Hobbes came from. This was the spiritual grandfather of the Calvin and Hobbes comic strip. I cannot recommend Barnaby enough. I remember reading a Barnaby book as a kid, and I cannot remember where or when, just that I loved it so much. And then they did a couple reprint books in the 80s, and now Fantagraphics is reprinting the whole thing. They've got 3 volumes. Cannot recommend this enough. This is a wonderful, wonderful book. You'll love it. Kids will love it. Grandparents will love it. We talk a lot about all ages books. This is a true all ages books, and everybody who reads it will come at it differently from where they are in their life. Oh, I love this stuff.
On page 292, up gallery 13, I'm on the fence on this one, and I'll tell you why after I describe it. This is called The Strange Ones graphic novel by Jeremy Jussey. I think it's Angeline walks with an open heart, but alone through a world that constantly rejects her. Frank, another loner, never smiles. Maybe it's Frank. After the hand of fate shoves them together in a mosh pit at a rock concert, they bond over long commutes back to Staten Island and begin a friendship that makes the world a little better for both of them. I'm intrigued. All we have is the cover of the book, which looks interesting. I got nothing else. And I'm kind of like, if you want me to drop $20 on a graphic novel, I would really like to see a little bit more of the art. Unfortunately, that's all I got. I mean, I'll look around online. I don't know if he's got a website. I didn't see any of their ads. This is kind of the defect of previews. I mean, this is probably all that this guy has to promote his book. You know, maybe he doesn't have a budget to do a big ad or do some whatever. I'm just saying this is something, the description I'm interested in, but at that price, I really need more than just the cover. Again, after I total everything up, maybe I'll take a chance. And if I do, we'll talk about it later on. But
it is a nice big chunk of reading. For $20, you know, it's around 200 pages for $20. 200 pages is stuff that hasn't been seen before. So when you think about it on the artist end, that's kind of cheap. Maybe we could reach out to him and see if he wants to talk to us, Sergio.
That would be kind of fun. So I'll check around, see if I can find more about it. Because, you know, I love supporting local artists. Well, not necessarily local, small artists.
Yo, small, wee, tiny. He's only 3 foot tall.
The small people.
Joe, right, where are we? Just jump to 302.
302. I'm there.
I have been seeing art for this book for the past 6 months. Bowie, Stardust, Ray Guns, and Moon Age Daydreams, written by Steve Horton, but drawn by Michael Allred. Allred has been posting art from this on his Facebook page for months. I'm buying it just for the art and that it's David Bowie. The previews edition, the hardcover, is $39.99, and the book market edition is exactly the same price.
And the best thing is both covers are there, so you can decide which one you want. Which one you going for?
I'm going to go for the comic cover because that's a much cooler cover.
Yeah.
Much cooler cover.
Cory, do you like Dave Cockrum?
Yes, I do. I like him a lot.
Well, then you're going to be on page 349 buying Alter Ego 163.
I buy it anyway.
And for me, I buy it when it has a all-purpose cover, all-purpose topic. In this case, they're examining the early days of Dave Cockrum, Legion of Superheroes, the X-Men, and just all sorts of stuff. Back into the 60s, into the 70s. I don't always buy Alter Ego because of the price, and I find a lot of times I read it and I only read a couple. I do love the companion book that is not, it's not out as a new one, back issues, although you can get 115 where they talk all about Dreadstar. But for this one, for you, Dave, I'll buy it.
If you scoop back a few pages to page 347, I don't know, Joe, if you've seen the movie Snowpiercer, but Snowpiercer is a Korean film that has American actors and everything. It is set in a world where the world is covered in snow, and there is a train called the Snowpiercer, which continuously runs to keep humanity alive. It's based on a graphic novel, and Titan Books is going to be reprinting the graphic novel. Of course, they've got a new cover because it's going to be a TV series on Netflix. But this is a very, very cool comic, and if you have not seen the movie, it is available on Netflix. Go out of your way, give it 2 hours. You'll be blown away by how good that movie is. Also on the next page, I want to point out something because the people, I'm in that Omnibus group on Facebook, they saw X-Men and Avengers Gamma Quest Omnibus. It's, what is it? 608 pages for $10. Holy crap, that must be and I had to step in and go, it's a reprint of novels they did in the about 10 years ago. So this is a reprint of 3 novels that were published about 10 years ago by Greg Cox, who also did the adaptation of Final Crisis. This was a fun novel. This was a fun prose book of the X-Men and the Avengers fighting each other and then teaming up. So not an omnibus the way we think of it, an omnibus in that it reprints a few novels. Also, right next to Alter Ego, Comic Book Creator has a long article and interview with P. Craig Russell. I love me some P. Craig Russell. I do. What else you got, Joe?
That's pretty much it for me. I didn't have anything else, and I do go through everything, including the manga and the toys and everything. Like I said, just not a big month for me.
Well, you know who it is a big month for? Me, because I'm doing all these podcasts. The Solitaire Rose Radio Network has all sorts of podcasts for you. There's, of course, Crazy Comics and Stories, where myself and Crazy Joe Ryder get together once a week to talk comics. We review comics, we talk about upcoming comics, we talk about comics history. Anything that has to do with comics, we're going to talk about. We also have Series in Review, where we review series and kind of give a DVD commentary of past comics that we've enjoyed. There is also Solitaire Rose Radio. Solitaire Rose Radio is my solo show where I discuss upcoming comics, past comics, comics history, and interview comics creators. These are all at crazycomics.solitairerose.com. There's also the podcast I'm proudest of. That's Novelcast, where I take the novels that I have written and turn them into audiobooks. That's at novels.solitairerose.com. Over at Bad Advice, myself, Dan Moore, and Wolfie B. Bad take your questions and give you bad advice. It's at badadvice.solitairerose.com. Now, don't think that I'm doing all the podcasts, because there's also Scrabbling Across the West by Dave Coffell and Stephanie Coffell. Dave is a musician and Stephanie is his wife. They travel the country performing music and playing Scrabble over at scrabbling.solitairerose.com. And finally, the newest member of the Solitaire Rose Radio group, that's Fantastic Forecast, where myself and host of For the Love of Comics, Adam Vermillion, go over the series The Fantastic Four, 4 issues at a time. That's available at fantasticforecast.solitairerose.com. If you would like to advertise on any of these podcasts, you can. Just email me at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks. Ooh, I switched it up on you, didn't I?
He's a bad machine. He's a podcasting machine.
How would you like to join this machine? You could do so right here. As Joe preps for Hip Watch 2, Electric Boogaloo, I am looking for co-hosts through the month of December. Now, the other thing that we did last year that I really enjoyed, because December can be a very busy month, is we recorded most of our fill-in episodes in October and November. So, if you would like to be a co-host on Crazy Comics and Stories in the month of December, you can! Believe it or not, kids, I am letting other people co-host. If you have a topic, go ahead and let me know. If you have experience with other podcasts, go ahead and let me know. But you can be a co-host. How, you may ask? And you darn well should. You can email me at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com, subject co-host. If you don't have an idea for a episode topic, that's okay. Joe usually doesn't have an idea anyway. I have tons of ideas, and if I know a little about you and what you like to collect, we can do a focused episode like I did with Dangerous Dan Moore when we talked about his favorite character, Thanos, or when I co-hosted with Adam Vermillion and we talked about his favorite character, Daredevil. So go ahead and email me. I'm looking for co-hosts, and I'd like you to be one of them. And now we'll do the ads, okay?
Oh, I suppose, because these guys are sponsors.
Promotional consideration is paid for by the following sponsors. Our first sponsor is DreamHost.com. DreamHost.com has been with us since the beginning. They're the best web host in the whole known universe. And if you need a web host, and you do because, Facebook, Google+, everything gets hacked. But if you set up your own web page, it'll never get hacked. Unless you kind of make some mistakes or pick an easy password like password. But still, you can have your own web page. If you use the code KRAYZ, Krayz, you get $20 off your first year. When you're at the office, do you often run to the vending machine for snacks? Those things are terrible for you. Instead, have snacks delivered to you. So go to Krayz.com. Krayz.com has healthy snacks that you can decide what kind of snacks you want, how often you want them, whether they get delivered to you, or if you choose them every time. I myself get the subscription box every 2 weeks so that I have healthy things to eat when I'm at work. You can get a free box by using the code CORYS3R5P. Matter of fact, use that code your fifth and your first box are free. Again, that's CORYS3R5P. If you'd like to advertise on any of the Solitaire Rose Podcast Network shows, you can. Just send us an email at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks. See, we got to switch it up every once in a while.
I know. I just they don't see where it's coming from.
And now it's Joe's favorite part of the show. No, not where he douses everybody at the airport in Purell.
I do?
Well, you should.
That's true.
No, it's Joe. What's going on the eBays?
I've been on vacation. But that doesn't mean I'm not selling stuff. Before I left,
good.
I put in about 100 different items. And 100. And I actually found a box of stuff that I'm kind of I can't wait to get up because it's Dynamite magazines. Dynamite was I don't know what you call it, kind of like a young version teen beat for the 70s and into the 80s, where it talked about whatever current topic was going on. And I talk about it fondly because if you want to hold on a second, because of course I left it in the other room. But I got it. Don't worry. I'll be back. Oh, jeez. I got it. Don't worry. Here we go. Tippy toe, tippy toe, tippy toe. Okay. No. Ah! Oh, good thing I don't need that appendage. Oh,
You
anyway,
need to clean your basement.
I'm not in the basement. That's
Oh,
the
that's
sad
right.
part.
You're not in the basement anymore.
Anyways, I have a Dynamite magazine, not my original one, but this. I started picking this up at issue number 4, which had a copyright date of 1974. The reason I always mention this because the magazine was a lot of fun because, let's see, it had Herbie the Love Bug on the cover. They had a thing about wild horses. They were talking about Miami's Dolphins great Nick Pruniconti. I don't know. I didn't know what football is. But they had all sorts of other things, including the Superhero Confidential, where they spy on Spider-Man. And what they did is they, for a while, they would actually have kind of introduction to the Spider-Man. It would start off Superhero Confidential, and they gave us 2 color pages of the origin of Spider-Man directly out of Amazing Fantasy. I'm sorry, something caught my attention. Amazing Fantasy 15, because it says copyright 1962 Zenith Publishing Corporation and 1974 Marvel Comics Group. So the Zenith Publishing caught my attention there. And then they answer questions like, has Spider-Man always wanted to be a crime fighter? And we all know the answer. No, he wanted to be make money. Where did he get his costume? Made it himself. Now, let's see, 74, that would have made me 9 years old. And this was amazing. This was long before I started collecting comics. So what got me, though, and something to this mind, and Cory, maybe you know, maybe it's time to ask the Strode. Okay, think 1974. Says, are there any big surprises coming up for Spidey and his fans? And it says, yes, there's a really big one on the way. It's so top secret, we can only tell you that this, and in capital letters, someone who has been dead, quotation marks, a long time is about to come back to life. Remember, you read it first in Dynamite. Now, me, in my 9-year-old thinking, I was thinking, oh, they're going to publish Spider-Man comics again. Because here I'm thinking, oh, they don't publish comic books anymore. Foolish 9-year-old. Cory, who was that someone who has been dead that came back to life?
Why, that would be Gwen Stacy.
Thank you. That's my confirmation. I had no idea who that was. And I didn't up until years. Well, actually, kind of like right about now when I found this old copy of Dynamite and dug through it. Now, I got these from my old buddy Pat because he was just getting rid of stuff the way he's wont to do. And they've been sitting in my garage forever, and I finally dug them out. Pat did something to his Dynamite magazines that I didn't. He left them intact. So I'm looking at this, and this one came with a Dynamite iron-on transfer. And there was a poster in the back, and the back cover had a thing you could cut out, and there were puzzles inside that you could fill out. And no, he didn't do that to any of his books. And I have probably about 100 of his stuff. And I mean, as you can tell, I can't even talk sentences. I'm so excited. Not only to have this one, by the way, this one's not going on eBay, but some of the other ones, just to put them up and price them. Not all of them survived because Dynamite every so often would give you like those. I'm telling you, kids don't know what I was talking about because remember when you used to have to lick postage stamps? Remember when we used to have to lick stickers to get them to stick? Now you peel them and stick them. Assuming kids even do that nowadays. Well, in my day. So sometimes because there's a little bit of moisture involved where these were stored, the sticker are now asphyxiated to the poster and back or into the back cover or whatever. So not every one of them's meant. I say this and are gushing about it because if you're looking for anything like that from your childhood, let me know. Because like, you see how good I think. Who's that contacted us earlier?
That was Travis.
Travis, send me a note via eBay and I will, I'll cut you a deal on a copy of this if you're so interested in. In the meantime, books you cannot get from me because while I was on vacation, I sold them. Tarot Witch of the Black Rose number 119, the cosplay photo cover signed variant. And all you need to know about Tarot Witch of the Black Rose is Cory's favorite line in any comic ever. Cory?
Hulk like beans.
No, the unrated one.
Oh, your vagina is haunted.
Yeah, I thought for sure you'd go with the Defenders. Hunters kill Bambi. Good Lord, Doc, are you taking me to see movies again? Cory, have you ever read Death on the Nile by Agatha Christie?
Why, yes, I have.
That's one up on me. I sold my copy. I had one from 1963, the Bantam copy. And oddly enough, there are billions of them on eBay, but I only had one in this particular cover. So priced at $5, sold at $5. I had a Ghost Rider #1, a 1 in 10 design variant cover, gone. We were talking about Red Sonja and Vampirella meet Betty and Veronica. I had a FOC Virgin Art variant cover. I have no idea what FOC means. I don't know, but it was one of the weird variant covers. Gone.
On the couch?
Could be. Found on couch.
No, that's not what I said.
I know, but that's what I'm thinking. Amazing Hero Swimsuit Special #3 from 1992. This was.
I loved those books so much.
This is again another one of a million ideas they could come back, maybe for Heroes Initiative or Comic Buyer's Guide. Just put the call out to all the artists. Draw us your favorite characters in swimsuits, maybe your own characters in swimsuits. They came out with these. They're not tremendously expensive, except for the ones I think that Joe Linsner did on the cover. But just tons of art. And I had a few copies, a few extra. I ended up selling them. Back in 1996, we went to Chicago Comic-Con, and the guest of honor was Will Eisner. And I remember going to his presentation somewhere. I have a photo of me, Maggie Thompson of the defunct Comic Buyer's Guide, and Will Eisner all posed. And I have no idea where it went. I wish I could find it, because that was the one and only time I saw Will. Not smart enough to get his autograph, though, but I had a unsigned copy I just sold. Quack #6. Picked that up from the also defunct Epic Comics, and that was from Star Reach Productions in 1977. And I sold a set of Batman: The Ultimate Evil from Andrew Voss, 1 to 2. Cory, have you read this at all?
I loved that book, but I am a huge fan of Vachos.
Oh, yeah. Could you do a quick summary of it?
Andrew Vachos writes crime novels that are not easy to read. What it is, he is a lawyer who protects children who have been abused. And to pay for that legal service, he writes crime novels. He wrote one about Batman, the Ultimate Evil, where we find out about the abuse in Batman's past. It's very dark. It is not for kids, and it is one of the best written Batman novels ever. They also adapted it into a prestige format series. I don't know if it was ever collected into a trade, but very well worth your time. Just excellent,
and you can find them.
Stuff.
They're not terribly expensive, so you know I had a set and it's gone. All this stuff's gone, but I got so much more just waiting for you on the eBays under Krayz, Krayz. Go back, look on the eBays. You can, Cory lists everything on his website. So there's only one thing left to say. Come get some.
And now we get to my favorite part of the show.
Belching contest. Oh, that was pathetic.
No, not where I lay in bed all day and read stuff on Marvel Unlimited.
You kidding? You can watch Disney Plus.
It's Freaking and Geeking, Joe. What are you freaking on?
I will have big news on Hip Watch 2 Electric Boogaloo next week. I did mention the Disney Plus. I am a little disappointed with Disney. No Star Wars holiday special. There also seems to be a real, how would you say, bereft of classic Disney. They put them, I mean, there's hits and misses all over the place, but they don't have, they could have had a whole subsection of classic Disney, The Wonderful World of Walt Disney's. I personally want to see the Scarecrow of Romney Marsh because I remember it being scared by it first as a kid, and then later to find out Patrick McGoohan of The Prisoner and many, many other things was the star of it. And so I'm a little disappointed. Also, not a lot of Fox stuff. I mean, yeah, The Simpsons are there, but I thought, well, they could probably run MASH and they could probably do X-Files, but none of that stuff's there yet. And
most of that is still over on Hulu.
That's what I'm thinking because we were just looking there, and I thought, I haven't looked at Hulu, but I probably will. But I got tons of stuff on Disney Plus still to look at. So I have heard stories of some tough streaming, some people having trouble getting things in. My wife watched a couple Simpsons, said there were a few blips, but and they also said the ratio is off on some of the earlier Simpsons. So
no, it's people aren't used to the fact that they were 4:3. Now, what they did do, they expanded it to fill your screen, which means it's cut off a little at the top and the bottom.
Yeah, which to me is more annoying than those dumbass. I don't know. I don't like pan and scan. So
but
whatever.
That's what they did with The Simpsons when it was on the FX.
Yeah.
No, FXX.
Yeah, because otherwise
that's one of the things that's kind of bugged me. It's like The Simpsons are finally available online. No, they've been streaming on FXX for free for like 3-4 years.
If you got FX, remember I don't have cable, so that's pretty much it for Freakin'. How about you, Mr. Strode?
Oh, let's pull up my list here.
Wait, it's Festivus is coming out. You can't be blowing everything now.
Oh, yes, I can. Been working a lot at the group home lately. And had to call one of them to say, hey, I've been asked to come over there, blah, blah, blah. Nowhere in any of the homes is there a list of the other homes and their phone numbers. So, okay, let's just go onto the website. No, not there either. And finally, I asked one of the supervisors today, oh, yeah, we should probably have that list. And they pointed me toward the list they had by the phone, and I said, that's the old list. That was the 4 cottages, not the homes that are out in the community. The 4 cottages that have all been torn down? Marvel, DC, they're not just canceling their omnibuses. They're not just canceling their hardcovers and trade paperbacks. Nope, they're canceling some of the 100-page giants, too. Most of the stuff is reprints. Driving me crazy. It's driving me crazy. We talked about it a little with Marvel. Marvel is doing all of these little mini events. And the thing about it is, I see no point in buying them as a regular comic because it's, this will be a trade or this will be 2 trades. Like Iron Man 2020, they're going to put that out in probably 1 or 2 trades, nice big thick books. The Ravencroft thing, that'll be a nice big thick book. All of these where it's a mini series and a few tie-ins. It's exhausting. And lastly, Disney Plus. I did not realize that all of their new series will be weekly. It won't be like Netflix where, here you go, here's the first season.
And to be fair, though, Netflix is thinking about going to that. So,
well, here's the problem. They do that on Hulu, and I'll watch a first episode and go, oh, yeah, cool, the next episode will be out, and then I kind of forget about it until months later because it's not like TV where they advertise it on other shows you're watching, or you have your DVR that grabs it. No, you have to actually remember, oh, yeah. And I know that they say, well, if you like it, you'll remember. No, there's tons of stuff I like, but I'm busy. Streaming is supposed to be easy, people. Make it easy.
Or we'll go somewhere else.
Joe, what you geeking on?
I got a huge geeking list, but let's just start with the easy stuff. Last week, Half Price Books had their where they give you coupons for every day, and by the end of the week, it's 50% off.
They're doing that a lot this year.
I missed out on. I knew I probably wouldn't get it, but they had the Marvel Comics Omnibus, the one that starts for Marvel Comics #1.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've got that.
Yeah, and I didn't get it, and then I thought, well, I'll go stop and see if I can grab it for half price. I kind of figured it would be gone. I almost went the day it was 40% off, but nope, wasn't there, which I kind of figured, no big deal. What I did pick up is a series called Heartthrobs. Cory, have you ever heard of this?
Is that the one by the guys who did Love and Rockets?
No, this is actually earlier. This is DC's Heartthrobs.
And
I picked up issue number 101. Could you still love your boyfriend if you caught him with another girl? Read Secret Life, Secret Loves. And the girl on the cover is like, Brad with another girl, and he doesn't even care that I caught him. Also, can there be more than one real love in your life? You'll thrill at the surprise ending of The Man in My Future. Special beginning this issue, a new column of beauty hints. You can be beautiful, plus other exciting stories and features. Cory, do you know why I bought this issue?
Because you want to be beautiful?
Close, because the Beatles are on the cover.
Ooh!
Apparently they have nothing to do on the inside. It's just the Fab Four's faces drawn in across. Beatles now showing. But whatever, you had me at Beatles. I'm easy. Now, I'm going to take a quick detour and then explain what was going on with the half price thing. There is I guess it's called Studio Pain. And it's an art gallery and oddity shop, 1129 Payne Avenue, St. Paul. It's kind of a rarity because you don't get many of these studios where the guys are able to set up and sell their goods and stuff. Unfortunately, he's going out of business. And I think he said he's going to hang on probably mid-December. But if you're looking to just check out an interesting shop, I've been wanting to get there for a while because my daughter and her boyfriend go there all the time. And we finally did. And I went in and I picked up some stuff because he's liquidating stuff, just getting ready to go. My daughter picked up a couple of cases, I guess bookcases things. It's like coffin shaped, you put it on the wall and use it as a shadow box or whatever. So if you're prone to help out, a small local business and you want to check out some of the cool things he comes up with, he's got like this huge box of 45s I may go back and make a deal for. I picked up a couple, I guess they're Pepsi banks, things like that. So I just mentioned that because he's nearby and it's kind of sad to see him going. One of the things I had mentioned, the half price thing, I swung by quickly. My wife and I took a trip up north, just a quick 3-day trip. And we did something we've been wanting to do for a long time. And I don't know if we visited, Cory, when we went up north, if we went that far. Split Rock Lighthouse is.
Yes, we did.
Well, it's a state park, and then the lighthouse was decommissioned, I believe, 68, 69, and it was took over by the Minnesota Historical Society, and they maintain it. And it's fully functional. They have interpretive people there dressed up as the lighthouse keepers. It's kind of interesting because when this was built, it's on this huge cliff. I mean, you go to the edge of this thing and you just look straight down into Lake Superior. Because it's decommissioned, they're not allowed to light it. They do get one day a year where they can, and that's November 10th, the day that the Edmund Fitzgerald went down. And we went up to not only see the ceremony where they ring the bell 29 times for one each of the sailors that perished on board, but also a 30th one for all the shipwrecked and the sailors who died on Lake Superior. And I have been going to this thing since it became a park, probably in 72 or 74. I've never seen it lit. So it was so cool not only to see it lit, it's beautiful, to go up and see the mechanism when it's lit. I've got a bunch of pictures on my Facebook. I was doing a couple videos. Actually got an extended stay at the top because unfortunately on the way up, some poor kid ralphed on the steps and they had to stop and clean it up. So we're like, I guess we're up here for a while. And it was just an amazing, amazing thing. I visited a lot of local shops. I'm not going to, because this is a long episode anyways with previews, I'm not going to talk a lot about them. But I am going to, a couple things to mention. The first thing I picked up, and this was at up when we went to Grand Marais. And again, I'll blab more about this, but I did pick up a book called The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, the 40th Anniversary Edition. 40th anniversary was 4 years ago of the Fitzgerald going down, and you think I'd know this. Oh, 75, yeah. And what's kind of, first of all, they don't know why it went down. Unlike the Titanic, which they figured, there's always theories about what helped cause it, but, it hit the iceberg. It was not expected to wipe out so many bulkheads, whatever. To this day, they're not quite sure why the Edmund Fitzgerald went down. There's a lot of theories. I picked up this book because it has a lot of, before they decided to make this site a graveyard, so basically you're not allowed to dive into it anymore. They did a couple extended dives with ROVs and things like that. I'm curious to see what the final verdict is when they get down there. But Cory, let me ask you a gruesome question. What happened to the bodies in the Titanic?
Most of them were probably eaten by fish.
Now, what do you think happened to the bodies in the Edmund Fitzgerald?
Well, if it was as cold as I think it was, they might have frozen in place till the spring.
Yeah, and no, they're there still.
Oh, wow, really?
Remember the Edmund Fitzgerald song that Gordon Lightfoot, Superior, it said, never gives up her dead. When a Superior is so cold, bodies will never rise. And that's probably why the families asked people to stop diving to the Fitz, because this is their tombstone that their family members are in. So very sobering thought if you ever happen to be in that particular spot on Lake Superior. And I'm going to read this. There's one other thought I want to give, but I'm not sure if it's true or not, so I'm going to hang on to it. Not everything was gruesome, and I'm just going to talk about the comics, because last time in August when I was up in Grand Marais, I talked about a place that had comic books. It was art gallery / antique store, and whoever's got the comics there is pricing them accordingly. You're not going to find any deals, but you're going to find some interesting things. The name of the place is I can't read my own handwriting. J and Company. It's 16 First Avenue West in Grand Marais. And what caught my eye there, and I didn't buy it, and I'm wishing I did, a David Cassidy #1. David Cassidy, yeah, color from Carlton Comics. Kind of, it felt like water damage. I didn't take it out of the bag, but you know how you get that water feel. But you know, this thing's like $75 near mint, so that was pretty. I don't know. It just caught my attention, and I'm thinking I might call them back later and say, "Hey, do you do mail order? Oh, what the hell? Let's take a field trip up there." Sadly, I did not get to go to the World's Best Donuts right there on 10 Wisconsin Street because it closes. I knew it was closed. It'll open again May 20th. But I did stop at Best's Fudge and Gifts and got me a pound of fudge. Let's just say fudge to me is as to pie is to Cory. No, I'm not sharing.
As it should be.
No, I would share my fudge. I'm not that selfish, and I'm diabetic too. That's the other reason. A couple other places I stopped at. I did get to go to a comic store. It was a quid pro quo because we did stop at the North Shore Winery near Lutzen, and so we stopped at the two places up on Miller Hill. The first one we've talked about before, Toy Galaxy. You and I have been there before in one of our northerly editions. Did we pod when we did that, or did we talked about it when we got back, right?
I have no idea. I can't
don't know.
remember anymore.
That's why we make Joe prizes. People can go back and look for it. I picked up a couple things. Cory, remember what was the one he had those replica boxes of cereal? Remember those?
That was the one next to the first comic shop we went to.
Yeah. Yeah, this is Toy Galaxy. Because
Okay.
I did pick up the Pink Panther Flakes cereal.
Oh, you finally did.
I did. And when I was talking with him, I told him, I bought this because I really wanted the Spy Kit. And he goes, I think I still got a few of those. And I'm like, oh, I may have to go back and get one. I said, they're like $300 on eBay. I can't afford. I'd sell it for less. I didn't pursue it, but I did buy that. And then I picked up a Protectors number 5, the newsstand version. Now, what's big on this one is Protectors number 5. This was the Malibu series. They basically had a bullet hole through the whole thing. And it didn't, unlike the one I always talk about, the Jab number 3, where they shot an actual bullet through various issues, different gauges. I'm still looking for the shotgun one, which I guess is just a shred of a comic book. But they actually moved the art around it. And the Protectors, they just went through it. And I guess it went through some of the ads that apparently pissed off some of the people who place the ads. Because, hey, you put a bullet hole right in my ad. What's neat about the newsstand version, other than the UPC on it, is that it's in a bag. It says, The Death of a Hero. First ever force beam hole comic. This issue is not to be missed. And then the arrow going up. Take a look. And there's a hole right there. So I just thought it was kind of interesting because the newsstand version had the bag that kind of, look at this, look at this. Next store at Collector Connection. Well, first of all, Toy Galaxy is 2218 Mountain Shadow Drive. They're on the Facebooks, as is Collector's Connection, which is, I've been going to their one version of their store or other since Pat and I did Comic-Con starting in the 80s. 2220 Mountain Shadow Drive, Village Square Mall in Duluth. They're right next to each other. And I was running out of time. This was kind of towards the end of our trip, and we were getting to that I want to go home time. But they had something I didn't expect to see, so I bought it. And Cory will be very proud of me. I bought an omnibus.
Ooh, what one?
Hulk, Planet Hulk.
Oh, cool.
Which is cool because I've never read these. I kind of checked out when the Planet Hulk was going on, and I didn't jump back to World War Hulk. So, and I think I may borrow this to my friend, the one that was upset about the layout of World War Hulk, because he didn't quite get the idea that, these were series that were going on. He wanted it all just one continuous story, and that's not what it was. So I did go. I mean, we went to a lot of other stores, a lot of small ones, and I'm going to mention them all, but I'm going to wait till next week because otherwise we'll have another hour tapped onto this podcast. Besides, we got time. We still got to hear what Cory's geeking on.
Well, a box day arrived last week.
I got mine too, but it's sitting on the comics.
No, the missing box.
Oh, you got that finally.
Yes, the missing box arrived. I was very, very happy, and I have my Halloween comics now. And first thing I read was the Olivia James Nancy. It reprints the first year of Olivia James's Nancy. By the way, Olivia James isn't her real name. She's hiding who she really is, which is kind of weird. Yeah. But then the strip itself is weird. So it kind of fits. What a wonderful book. $20, reprints the first year. I'm in love with this. I know that a lot of artists love Ernie Bushmiller's Nancy. I kind of was like, okay, I kind of get it. I like the Nancy comic books 100 times better. And then the people who took over after Bushmiller weren't any good. But now Olivia James's Nancy is a very fun, modern comic strip, which is weird because when you read the funny pages, even Zits, which is about teenagers, seems like it's about 30 years behind. Nowhere in Zits do they talk about cell phones and any of that stuff, probably because the guy who's drawn it's in his 50s or 60s. So it's really cool that it's the one modern comic that's being printed.
I do have a question, though.
Sure.
Now, is this reprint of Nancy between the Miller years to current, or just?
Nope, starting when she took over.
Okay,
Olivia James took over.
If you see the comics, I've been looking for this for years when they rebrought Nancy back, and I think I've talked about it. It's where Nancy's eating a sandwich, and Sluggo comes up and goes, "Oh, what kind of sandwich you eating?" And Nancy just leans back with her mouth open, and Sluggo's like, "Ah!" And as she's watching him run away, huh? I thought he liked bologna and cheese, or something like that. If that's in the collection, I gotta get a scan of that.
It is not in this collection.
Ah, okay. Well, you're my best Nancy Hope.
If you go to ICV2, which we've talked about a lot,
Yes.
they are reporting that comic sales were huge in October, higher than they've been in 2 years.
And it can't be just me and Cory.
And it's driven by the Hickman X-Men mostly. But comic sales in comic shops were up, which is good for the business, good for comic companies, good for comic shops, good for the distributor.
It's goodly.
And we've also got the fact that Dogman and the latest Renee Zellweger, is that her name? I don't remember.
Close enough.
Those were the 2 highest selling books of all kinds in October. So all those people are saying, comics are dying. Well, you just shut up and go away because you don't know what you're talking about. Comics are doing fan-friggin-tastic. I have not seen much about sales for comics Black Friday, but then again, I never do. I know that when Joe, Butch, and I are wandering around, and Dangerous Dan might come with us.
Oh, fun.
So we're going to be hitting a bunch of shops and basically buying our winter reads. I know when we went to, what was it, College of Comic Book Knowledge, they even had a special bookshelf for stuff that they were blowing out. So I think the more comic shops we hit, the more we'll be filling up that truck.
Oh, yeah.
And the last thing I'm geeking on, I have read the Tom King Superman story from the 100-page comics from Walmart. As you know, last week I finally gave up finding the last issue at the Walmarts and just ordered it off the eBay and sat down and read the whole thing. This is one of the best Superman stories I have ever read. It is being reprinted in regular comics as Superman Up in the Sky. And you know that when it's done, there'll be a trade paperback of it and Bendis's Batman story. Bendis's Batman story was really good too, but Tom King's Superman story was so damn good that I hope that at some point he gets to write a Superman comic. I was blown away by just how good it was and how much I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the whole 100-page comic format, always have. But the new stories that they are putting in, the ones from the previous run, were fantastic. The new, since they've kind of done a restart and now they're available in comic shops, they say they're available in Target. I have yet to see it. They're more done in one, which is good in its own way. But man, they really put some great work into the stuff they did for those. I even like the Gail Simone Flash story that was in the Flash series. And that's kind of where, let me take a look here. I think we're over 2 hours.
We are.
We are over 2 hours, kids. Believe it or not, you've listened to us blather on about funny books for 2 hours. And it's past my bedtime.
It is.
And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
Can't talk. Eating glug. Hit my music.
Oh, thank goodness I don't have to put up with another one of those jokes.